If you spend much time on the good old internet, you might have come across cryptocurrencies, NFTs, and the debates around them. Over the years, many people have described digital assets as scams, but we crypto enthusiasts know it's not true. Sometimes, though, the people calling crypto schemes scams are bang on. Today, we are looking at one of the biggest crypto scams, the QuadrigaCX scam. This story is about a man who pulled a scam worth $215 million on around 75,000 customers after his death. Yeah, you heard that right. Also, if you enjoy finance content, consider subscribing or liking the video. I spend a lot of time researching these stories, and only a small percentage of my viewers are subscribed. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe. Our story begins in December 2018 with Gerald Cotten, the founder of Canada's largest crypto exchange at the time, QuadrigaCX. Cotten had just gotten married and he went on a trip with his wife, Jennifer Robertson, to India. Unfortunately, the trip turned into a disaster when Cotten fell ill and suffered from Crohn's disease. He was immediately admitted to a hospital, but his body gave up and he passed away. A month later, QuadrigaCX announced his death in a statement credited to his wife, Jennifer. But the story gets strange. In the months leading to Cotten's death, customers had been complaining they couldn't get their money out of the exchange and were waiting for weeks, if not months, to receive funds. On January 28, 2019, the exchange went offline for maintenance. Soon after, a court filing revealed that QuadrigaCX owed customers $190 million at the time, and it was a massive shock at the time. No one knew how to access the exchange's reserves. Jennifer stated in court that while she had Cotten's laptop, it was encrypted. She was never given the password or recovery key, and Cotten was the only person with control of QuadrigaCX's cold storage system. In other words, access to somewhere around $190 million in cryptocurrency vanished with Cotten's death, like a spark in the air. Gone. Around 75,000 customers of Cotten's QuadrigaCX crypto exchange suddenly lost fortunes they had saved for everything from tuition to retirement funds, life savings, and mortgages. Well, that was about the money, but we have to go back to Quadriga's roots to understand what is actually going on. QuadrigaCX was started by Gerald Cotten and Michael Patron in Canada in 2013. At first, they focused on local trades of Bitcoin. They hired a small staff and soon they expanded in 2014 to open a Bitcoin ATM in Vancouver. But they had trouble raising funds and ran out of money in 2015 after a failed attempt to go public and list on the Canadian Securities Exchange. By 2016, plans to go public were dumped. The legal counsel was let go and all of the other directors had resigned from QuadrigaCX. But Gerald Cotten ran the business alone. Talk about a one-man show. According to reports, Cotten ran the company from his laptop with no permanent office space. But the company grew despite its rocky start as the price of Bitcoin surged in 2017 from $1,000 to nearly $20,000. People wanted a way to get in on the action, and the company grew to 350,000 customers, trading over $1 billion in assets. But that price surge wasn't to last. When Bitcoin crashed in 2018, customers wanted to cash out what they could, and that's where the trouble really began. To understand how so many people trusted a company that was a one-man show with their money, it is important to know who that man was. Gerald Cotten was an early cryptocurrency supporter and part of a Vancouver group in 2013 that referred to itself as the Vancouver Bitcoin Co-op. He seemed like a nice Canadian guy who was a crypto expert and believed in the power of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general. For him, cryptocurrency was the future of finance, and Cotten was different. Unlike the CEO of Binance's Changpeng Zhao or FTX's Sam Bankman-Fried, Cotten kept his feet on the ground and didn't want any spotlight and was not known as a public figure. However, QuadrigaCX often sponsored local crypto educational events and charities such as the Indian Orphanage, which he said was the reason for his December 2018 visit. When QuadrigaCX's business took off, it was still difficult for most people to invest in cryptocurrencies, and the company benefited from one of the first to market. Cotten's Bitcoin enthusiasm and understanding were obvious, and some of the company's success can be credited to his early efforts. He used to care more about helping people understand and realize the potential of Bitcoin rather than just making a profit. But as these stories go, things weren't as simple as they appeared. Cotten's death brought that all to the surface. According to the excellent podcast series on the story, Exit Scam, many people, including his widow, Jennifer Robertson, expected a dead man's switch to come after Cotten's death. The switch is basically an email or a message which gets triggered in the event of unexpected death. It reveals the private keys or where the private keys could be found. But in Quadriga's case, There was no dead man's switch message coming. The lack of a plan for access to QuadrigaCX's cold storage wallets looked strange, because it came to light that Cotten had changed his will the month before he went to India. Customers who were waiting on funds that were locked in QuadrigaCX accounts immediately started getting outraged with threads on Reddit and other forums questioning if Cotten was really even dead. But here's the thing about cryptocurrency. While many people think Bitcoin is anonymous, it is very much not in very important ways. Blockchain technology relies on there being a public ledger of all transactions that can be verified and viewed by anyone, anywhere. To put it simply, you can't necessarily tell from that ledger that a particular person such as Gerald Cotten transferred Bitcoin to another person such as Jennifer Robertson. However, you can view at a certain time and date the specific wallet address transferred this amount of Bitcoin to this other wallet. You can also see how often and how much a wallet address has transacted on the blockchain and what it's currently holding. So even if no one could access the cryptocurrency with QuadrigaCX's wallets to give money back to customers, the crypto would still exist there. In the coming months, 6 Bitcoin wallets were identified as linked to QuadrigaCX. But shockingly, they were nearly empty. The souls of innocent people were ripped into pieces when they finally understood that they were scammed and wouldn't get their money back. Among the hard hit was Tong Zhu, who works in technology and put money in Quadriga. Zhu said, "I ended up losing my life savings. I lost $400,000. I took out 3 loans from the bank and put it all into crypto. I put myself into a deep hole, and the only way to dig out of it was to sell my house." The next bombshell was the revelation that this wasn't Cotten's first scam. Sherlock's on the internet and investigative journalist Amy Castor found he had a long history of Ponzi schemes, starting all the way back when he was just 15 years old. Now, add all that info to the knowledge that Cotten owned boats that could get to the Caribbean without refueling. He also knew how to fly planes and often traveled abroad with large amounts of cash. He often jetted to places like Paris, Hawaii, and Morocco. Also, QuadrigaCX's wallets were not only empty when he died, but some had been empty for a long time. It's not hard to reach the conclusion that Cotten was planning an exit scam. This leads to the biggest debate in the matter of Gerald Cotten. Did he fake his own death as part of an exit scam, or did he actually die and set off a chain of events that exposed his scheme? From almost the moment the news came out that Cotten had died, long before the explosive report from Ernst & Young, theories started circulating online that Cotten was still alive and had faked his own death. Despite the fact there is an official death certificate and an investigation by the Globe and Mail newspaper with quotes from the Indian hospital detailing the timeline of his death, some are unconvinced. There's a typo in the death certificate. Cotten had cultivated skills from years of illicit activities in covering his tracks. He knew how to create fake identities and owned planes and a boat he could use to escape. There's ample evidence pointing to the idea that Cotten was indeed planning an exit scam and that he was a con artist. In the Exit Scam podcast, Aaron Lammer details ways people can even hire facilitators in India to fake a death, including getting a fake body to put in a coffin as part of the package. He also explains that no one was required to identify Cotten's body when it was transported from India to its burial in Canada. According to the Discovery Plus documentary Dead Man's Switch, a crypto mystery, Cotten was embalmed in the anatomy department of a Jaipur medical college in Rajasthan, India. No autopsy was done and the body got shipped back to Canada. He was buried 5 days after passing away. The closed casket funeral took place in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Former QuadrigaCX investors have called for the authorities to dig up Cotten's body and perform an autopsy to settle the question once and for all. Until then, the indistinct evidence at hand leaves room for debate. Putting together all we know, it looks most likely that while Cotten was planning to disappear, he died an untimely death in India in 2018. Is Gerald Cotten dead, or is he still alive? Let me know in the comments below. And if you learned something new from this, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be the first to see our new videos. I make deep dives like this every week where I uncover the secrets of money and business.